Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Shadowwraith and today I'm going to be going over top tier armies. So, by top tier I mean they do very well in events and you see them quite a lot and they place relatively high. I go off the top 5. If you place in top 5 it means you've done very well. Okay? If your army is not on this list, don't fear, it does not mean you are not top tier. It simply means I did not have time to cover all the armies. And this is for the Hobbit, Armies of the Hobbit book, because the last list I did were Armies of the Lord of the Rings, and this is the follow-on for the Hobbit. Enough of that, we're going straight in, and we've got Halls of Thranduil. Halls of Thranduil are absolutely fantastic. We'll start with their army bonus, which is awesome. Basically, if you're within 3 inches of Thranduil, all Palace Guard captains, Mirkwood captains, Palace Guard, Mirkwood Cavalry and Mirkwood Elves gain +1 to their wounds rolls when making strikes. That is phenomenal. Elves do tend to struggle with wounding. They can win fights, sure, but they do struggle with wounding. And this completely counters that. +1 to wound is absolutely nuts. On top of that, Mirkwood Rangers of this force do not count towards the army's bow limit. So you can go for a shooty army. Brilliant. The other thing going for Thranduil's Halls is we've got some solid heroes. We've got Thranduil, King of the Woodland Realm, 100 points. And you want this guy because the army bonus is telling you you want this guy. If you don't bring him, you're missing out on a lot, in my opinion. Unless you want to play a thematic ranger list or something like that. But, what do we get for 100 points? Well, he's Fight 6, 2+ shoot value, Strength 4, Defense 4, 2 attacks, 3 wounds, Courage 6, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate. He's got an Elven Made Sword and an Elven Cloak. So, pretty solid stat line. He's got Heroic Accuracy, Strike, Strength and Defense. My 2 favourite in there, so he's already a tick for me. And his options, he can have an additional Elven Made Sword for 30 points. Basically, what that does is it increases his attacks to 3 and his fight value to 7. In addition, he gains the Blade Lord special rule, which basically is, if he has the infantry keyword, he receives +1 attack for each extra enemies he is engaged with after the first. So you don't count the first mod as engaged because you don't get +1 attack for everyone, but if you've got 2 people on you, that means he gains +1 attack, ignoring the first model that he's engaged with, and he gets +1 for the second. Really good, really good. He's got Expert Rider, Fleetfoot, Woodland Creature. He's absolutely solid. You can have the Circlet of Kings, basically giving you a free Aura of Dismay and Nature's Wrath once per game, and they automatically cast counting as a result of a 6 and do not cost will. So that's pretty scary. Very scary. We've got Elk. We can give him an Elk, and the Elk is fantastic. Movement 10. I'm not going to do the other stats because no one cares about the other stats. But basically, when he charges, his strikes are Strength 5 rather than Strength 4. And on the charge, if he's got 2 Elven Blades, or Elven Made Swords, he has 4 attacks at Strength 5. So that can be pretty scary, as it's 8 attacks when he knocks them prone. You also have the option for Heavy Armour for 10 points, which I would definitely give him because he's only Defense 4. You can give him a Horse for 10 points if you don't want the Elk, and you can give him an Elf Bow just to make use of that 2+ shoot value. What else has he got? That's about it. He's a pretty solid guy, and he busts your army to high heaven. He also makes the Palace Guard captains and Palace Guard elves +1 fight value whilst within 3. So, to put that in perspective, you can have a Palace Guard captain at fight 7 within 3 of Thranduil at +1 to wound. If you give him a shield, he's defense 7 as well. And with his 2 attacks, it's ridiculous. If you trap something and you have a Palace Guard captain and you 2-hand with him because you've got plenty of other elves to roll a 6, you are +2 to wound with 4 attacks. So, yeah, I think he's amazing. Then, we've got Legolas Greenleaf, and I'll quickly whiz over the other heroes. He's 95 points, fight 6, 3+ shoot value, which is still relatively low in my opinion for this stuff we see Legolas do in the movies. Just saying, I've seen him shoot, I'm pretty sure he shoots a rope off a siege ladder from quite a way away, but never mind. He's Strength 4, Defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, and Courage 6. That's the other thing that hurts me, only 2 attacks. He's 3 might, 2 will, 3 fate. And he's got Armour, Elf Bow, and Elven Made Daggers. Now, you can give him an Elven Cloak, Horse, Orcris, and he's got deadly shot. So basically you can do one super shot, which always hits on 2+ regardless of any modifiers, and you can shoot into combat and ignores in the waves and all sorts of crazy stuff. I only use that to dismount heroes off their horses, or maybe a random banner snipe. Or you can shoot 3 shots, hitting on 3+, taking all in the waves as normal. Got Chariot, 85 points. She is pretty much identical to Legolas stat-wise, apart from she's got an extra attack. Yeah, that's pretty much it. An extra attack. And then she's got Blade Mistress, which is pretty much identical to Blade Lord that Thranduil has. So you get +1 attack for each additional enemy past the first one that you are engaged with. And she goes nuts. She goes to strength 5, defense 4 if you have Killy in your army, and Killy dies. So yeah, you've got solid troops, you've got solid heroes. I mean, all the troops are fight 5, you can make them up to fight 6. They ignore courage, +1 to wound. Yeah, you can't really go wrong with these guys. Anyway, that's enough on Thranduil's Halls. The next entry is for the evil side, and that is Goblin Town. Now, this is one of those armies that I completely missed it. Completely looked over it. I was like, oh no, another chaffy horde army. Cool, not interested. But then I could see what they did. I saw what they could do, and then I trialled it myself to use them, and they are absolutely bonkers. I absolutely love them. The army bonus increases Goblin Heroes warband sides by 6 models, which absolutely encourages you to bring a horde list, which is the only way you want to play this army. I can't even imagine of any other way unless you bring nothing but captains, but who would do that? We've got the Goblin King, who is an absolute beast. We've got some pretty solid heroes, actually. So, yeah, and on top of these heroes, don't forget we can have the Goblin Mercenary Captain and Goblin Mercenaries in our list. So, that's pretty good. That's really handy if you want to do some sneaky ambushing. Now, the Goblin King, he is 130 points, fight 6, 5+ shoot value, and his only shoot attack is he can pick up a goblin that's in base contact with him, hurl him for 12 inches, and it's resolved at strength 8 and automatically knocks prone any model it hits. So it's quite funny. If you get a cheeky throw onto Strider on a horse, you just knock him prone. You can even hit a Wraith on his Fell Beast. So yeah, that is relying on if you roll a 6 or a 5 if you haven't moved, but you do have might, so you could get that cheeky little snipe. Anyway, he is strength 5, defense 5, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 3, 3 might, 2 will, 1 fate. And he's got 2-handed pick, and yes, he does have burly. He's got cave dweller and resistant to magic and causes terror because he's a big goblin. Now, he's got strike, challenge, and strength. Don't really need strength. I don't really use it apart from a very rare occasion, but I've got piercing strike for that with my pick if I really wanted to. I don't know. But heroic strike is very useful. And he's got relentless advance, which basically he can move through friendly goblin models. Each model he moves through suffers a strength 3 hit. Any goblin that he ends his move on is automatically slain. A model with this special cannot be you can't use magic to make the Goblin King do this to his own goblins. But yeah, he has to charge into combat for it to go off. So you can push him out of the way and charge into combat. He's got Blubbery Mass, which is absolutely insane. Basically, he's got a 3+ ignore wounds save. So each time he takes a wound, you roll a dice, and on a 3+, he does not take that wound. Blubbery Mass. The only things that negate this is magic, any wounds done by magic, and any wounds dealt by elven-made weapons. So, absolutely tough. If you're going against anything that doesn't really have any elven-made weapons, he's going to be a tough cookie to take down. Then we've got Grinner. 40 points. 40 points. He's so cheap. Oh, and he's a Hero of Legend. Did I mention that? Yeah. Hero Legend +6 to that. We've got Hero of Fortitude with Grinner, +6 to his warband size. And he's okay in combat. He's fight 3, 5+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 4, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, and courage 3. And here's where it gets crazy. He's got 3 might. He's got 3 bloody might. 40 points. That's such a bargain. 1 wound and 1 fate. 1 will and 1 fate, sorry. He comes with a dagger and a scourge. Scourge is basically a 2-inch strength 2 throwing weapon. And he's got heroic strike as well. 3 might, heroic strike, and 40 points. That is nuts. That is such a bargain in my opinion. He's got Cave Dweller. All the goblins have Cave Dweller. And he's got the Chittering Horde special rule. Basically, what the Chittering Horde rule does is it means you can support any model, even if you don't have a spear, that has Chittering Horde rule as well. So goblins can support each other even if they don't have spears. And he's got the swap with me heroic action. So, basically what it is at the start of any phase, use swap with me enables Grinner to swap places with any friendly goblin model except the goblin scribe within 3 inches. This does not count as a move if there is no room. If there is no room to swap, place a swap model, you must pick another model, otherwise the heroic action is wasted, so be careful with who you pick. The reason that's so good is because it just says goblin model. And the king is a goblin. So I've been charged, here's a situation. I've been charged by Aragorn and a few other people. I'm like, oh, the Goblin King is going to die. At the start of whatever phase I fancied, I used Grinner and I swapped him out with the Goblin King, saving his life. Like, he got him right out there. And that is like last case scenario because I'm still losing Grinner, but it's better than losing the Goblin King. So you can get people out of really sticky situations. It's fantastic. And then we've got the Scribe. Basically, he can spawn in D3 extra Goblin Warriors on the board, +1 for each point that he passes his courage test by, because he has to roll a courage test to see if he can bring things in, but he can't move on his own. Guys have to pick him up and he's a heavy object. We've got Gollum. Basically, all I use Gollum for is either grab an objective or go invisible and charge him into, I don't know, Aragorn, and half his fight value. And you've got the Goblin King in with him as well. So you can either tie on fight value or just strike and, well, you don't even need to strike because there's no way, even if it's fight 10, the Goblin King outfights him now. And we've got Goblin Captains, they've got Chittering Horde, and all Goblin Warriors have Chittering Horde. So, and this is the other point I want to make, Goblin Warriors are 4 points. So, yeah, you can bring tons. Goblin Captains are 35, and they're pretty much standard captains. Then we've got a tricky one here. Now, it is a very close call between the Iron Hills and Erebor Reclaimed. Yeah, it's up to you how you go about this. A lot of people like Erebor Reclaimed, but I've seen more Iron Hills, so I'm going to cover Iron Hills here. But basically, Erebor Reclaimed can bring pretty much most of the Iron Hills list. So you can bring Dane Ironfoot, you can bring Iron Hill Captains, Iron Hill Dwarves, and Iron Hill Goat Riders. So, yeah, it depends if you want the Chariot and the whirly-durly things, the old Ballistas. And the army bonuses is basically all Erebor Dwarves will treat Thorin as a 6-inch banner. Or you can have the choice to +1 or -1 to your reinforcement rolls for scenarios. So, yeah, that's pretty good. And Dane also gets Master of Battle on a 4+. I prefer the Master of Battle and changing the reinforcement rolls, but it's all personal preference. Now, Iron Hills, they are just hard as nails, and they've got solid heroes. So, we've got the Dane Ironfoot, Lord of the Iron Hills, 140 points. He's fight 6, strength 5, defense 8, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 7, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate. He's got a 2-handed hammer, heavy dwarf armor. He's got heroic resolve, march, strike, strength, and challenge. No defense, but he doesn't really need it, I guess. And you can give him a war ball, which you absolutely should, for 20 points. It's only movement 8, but it's still awesome. And it's a 2-wound mount at defense 6, so it's harder to get rid of. He's got Burly, so strength 5 at +1 to wound is terrifying, with the +1 to bonus for cavalry charges, so the +1 attack. So he's on 4 attacks on the charge. 8 if you knock someone prone, all at strength 5 +1 to wound. Horrible. And yeah, he is fearless. Whilst Dane Ironfoot, Lord of the Iron Hills, is alive, all Iron Hill models within 12 automatically pass courage tests. That's fantastic. He causes terror in a turn in which he charged. And he also as soon as he kills a model, for the rest of the game, if he's enraged to charge, he must do if able to. That's really good. It doesn't say the closest enemy model, because I can kite models like that all day long. And he's got headbutt, so if he wins a duel roll but fails to slay his opponent, select one man-sized or smaller model in the fight and roll a d6. On a 5+, he will headbutt the person and then knock to the ground. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. And he's got Master of Battle on a 4+, which is really handy. Yeah, nothing wrong with that guy. Absolutely nothing wrong with that guy. You've got the Iron Hill Captains, who are defense 8 or defense 9 in the shield wall, and they've all got Master of Battle on a 5+, which is scary. You've got the Iron Hill Dwarves, and they're all defense 7, defense 8 in shield wall. Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, you can give them spears, you can have a banner with them, which I always suggest bringing the banner, and you can exchange shield for a crossbow. Crossbows are awesome, strength 4 shooting, but they can't move, and you can exchange shields for Mattock, and that's free. So yeah, a Mattock basically is a two-handed weapon that can be either used to bash or piercing strike. And then we got the Iron Hill Goat Riders. Now these guys are really scary, and they're 20 points each, which is quite cheap. Now you can exchange a War Spear for a Mattock. Don't do that. Keep the War Spear, because it's strength 4 +1 to wound with 2 attacks on the charge. Yeah, don't do it. It'll be 4 attacks each model you knock prone, and there's a good chance you can knock someone prone because they've got devastating charge. They basically, when this model charges into combat against one or more man-size or smaller model, roll a d6 for each. On a 5+, that model is immediately knocked to the ground. So you can go up to any big-wig hero, big guy, and as long as he's man-sized, so again, we'll go with Gilgalad, charge Gilgalad. You might lose that fight, but roll a 5+, guess what, Gilgalad? You're not going to be striking me this turn. You're on the ground. And then we've got the Iron Hills Ballista. Recently gone up in points with the FAQs, but it's okay. Basically, it only scatters 3 inches, and you draw like an invisible line of the path in which the shot that you fired off would have shot through, and no like shooting can go through that invisible line because basically it's got some spinning thing stopping people from shooting. And it's also got splash damage, which is awesome. So all man-sized models within 2 inches are knocked to the ground. Cavalry models within 2 inches must take a thrown rider test. Additionally, any model within 2 inches also suffers a strength 4 hit, which is absolutely fantastic after the strength 8 hit. So, yeah, Iron Hills. I'll quickly go over the Chariot, because this video will be way too long otherwise, because I'm on number 3. We basically, it can't be trapped. It's an absolute killing machine. It's got a rapid fire bolt thrower on top, so it fires d6 shots and doesn't suffer the -1 penalty for moving. The impact hits are really, really good. So I think they are 3 strength 6 hits, which is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And yeah, you can't go wrong with Iron Hills. They're tough. They kill quite happily. The only thing you want to watch out for is Warriors of the Dead, because they will chew through you.